You're watching Daybreak, and thank you for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya, and at Ayub Abdikadir. Lucy Kaleke is Communications Officer at the UDA Party. Wanjuhi Njoroge is a Youth Policy Analyst from Nyeri County. Wycliffe Merina is a Youth Leader, Nairobi County, Embakasi South to be specific. Vuka Omole is the National Vice Chairperson, the Communist Party of Kenya. And Njeri Kahiga is a National Youth Leader from Nyandarua County, while Wanyama Eric Chemwami is a Youth Development Officer from the county of Uasin Gishu. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now let's flip the conversation, and then the question then begs is, what's your ideology? We talked about the ideology of the ruling coalition, the parties that make that, the opposition party, even KANU by extension. But what's the ideology of the young people in Kenya? And to this, I come to you on the same Buka. I mean, what then needs to drive the energy of the young people in this country? Maybe
I could start from the fundamentals in terms of political ideology. In the global world stage, there are actually two critical political ideology. There's a group of people who have the thinking that only an elite billionaire class can be organized to drive an agenda of a nation. That simply is capitalism. That means the few people with money directs how the resources of a country is being distributed. In the Kenya political landscape, we consider all other political parties, including the excluding the Communist Party of Kenya, as belong to that sort of ideology, because they see themselves as, in fact, the political elite, the rich political elite, see themselves as the drivers of the change. But indeed, they're the drivers of profits. Then they're on the other side where we are. In fact, you had mentioned in the beginning of this show that many people are aware of the Communist Party of China, but may not be aware of the Communist Party of Kenya. But the truth of the matter is, on the left side of the political ideology, there are people who strongly believe that the poor people, they are not poor because they are actually, for example, stupid or silly people, but they are poor because the system in place have imposed certain conditions that to break them, it is very difficult. For example, if you look at the President Ruto's administration, who has privileges? For example, I have heard my sister here, my brothers here talks about the unity of the mountain, the unity of Nyanza, but this unity is only the unity for the rich people from that place. In fact, the system that we have in Kenya produces the worst people in the most powerful position. I don't think that Gachagua represents the interests of the Kikuyu community, or I don't think President Ruto represents the interests of the entire Kalenjin community. But they want to put it as apparent that now that the Kalenjins are in power, the Kalenjins are happy. No, the truth of the matter that Kalenjins were in power for 24 years, and we still have poor Kalenjin people. So the unity that we must drive for based on ideology, because the political science is the science of distribution of resources. What we want, how are resources reaching to the most vulnerable people in this society? That resource can only reach through what we call, in our own thinking, a different political ideology that actually battles the neo-colonial system that we have in Kenya, because President Ruto himself and the previous political leaders in our country do not make decisions of this country. In fact, what we need to fight for this country as the young people is a national sovereignty to complete our independence, because we cannot have our former colonizers, the Western ruling class, deciding on behalf of how our country is being governed. It actually annoys me that in less than 5 years, we have surrendered almost 60% of our sovereignty to the Western Empire. Since 2022, we have the United States, for example, building an air base in our country in Wajir. We have the Batuk that still exists in Nanyuki. So how is it possible that we're a sovereign country? So what should you be uniting the young people is that the Kenyan must unite to make the decision for the Kenyan people on their own behalf. If we say that, then we will bring out what President Ruto last time called the hustlers versus dynasty, to bring the real hustler, because the real hustlers are the poor people. But now we are seeing that only lip service. The UDA wants to talk and put a lie on top of a lie, but they do not want to do anything for the benefit of the Kenyan majority. What then will be the modus operandi of, say, if the Communist Party of Kenya
was in power? Because you have accused the current elite as being the slaves of neo-colonialists and neo-colonization, which you say still is very apparent in Kenya. What then will be your modus operandi?
For example, there is a clear way in which we can learn from history how countries that were colonized have been able to get out of poverty. There are two comparatives. One is look east. For example, now they talk about China. China was colonized by the most reactionary colonial power, Japan. China did not retire to neoliberal globalization as we have seen in many African countries. Most African liberation movement, from Frelimo, even to the ANC we are talking about today, to the Kenyan colonial project, all have surrendered to a neo-colonial project, in the sense that when the Communist Party of Kenya takes in the power, the first thing we must tell the Kenyan people that we cannot depend on the people who want to rob our country to advance. So we must come up with the policies that are internally looking. For example, there are two extreme policies that President Ruto has come out that confirms that he is not in the interest of the Kenyan people. This policy of exporting labors, it's just, an agent of slavery, for example. You cannot say that you don't want to create industries at home. You want to allow your political brokers to do business and kill the local industrial project, and then think that you can come before TV and tell people, I signed some mediocre agreement with, for example, the Canadian government to export 1,000 Kenyans to find jobs abroad. In that case, it's just auctioning the poor, learned Kenyan youth, and that is a total brain drain. You cannot develop a country like that. The second one is appealing to multinationals to help us, appealing that I have gone and signed, for example, a deal, like you were saying, I went to South Korea, I went and signed a deal with Coca-Cola. These multinationals are in, he thinks that Bill Gates Foundation will probably help us in terms of advancing food security. The food security is the issue of land. Our land in this Kenya, the majority of the Kenyan land, in fact, the majority of the Kenyan land is it's being hoarded by a few rich individuals that do not produce food. What our president should actually be looking at is how can we produce food for our own, national food sovereignty. So every policy that President Ruto has come out with in this short time he's in government has only the dictates of the former colonial empire.
Jerry, coming to you then, how do we get out? Because in amplifying the call for uniting around a cause, then certainly there must be an idea that binds you all. But the irony is that you all belong to different political parties and coalitions. So what then is the point of young people talking about unity, accusing the current political establishment players, yet you're not coalescing around one ideology that binds you all?
You see, the good and the bad side of politics is that politics cannot be like a school where we can all have one uniform, red ties, blue ties. And that is what makes politics in Kenya sometimes very interesting, because every party has their own ideologies and every party has what it stands for. Like right now, if you ask every party in regards to the rift between the president and the deputy president, every party has their own opinion, and it's okay for people to have different parties, because that is why we fought so much for multi-partyism. But again, in these parties, the position of the youth, how well is it amplified? Because I believe if I'm in PNU and we are talking about one man, one vote, one shilling, I can coordinate with somebody in the Communist Party in Kenya, and we can all agree as the young people in our respective parties that, you know what, we need to fight for this one man, one vote, one shilling. We need to speak to our members of parliament in our political parties, because these are the vehicles that took them to the Senate, that took them to the parliament, that took them to the county assemblies. So we don't...
But do they listen to you?
Again, we come to the question of how honest are our politicians in Kenya, because it's very shocking that we have people right now in UDA who are loudly saying that, you know what, this Finance Bill 2024 is quite punitive. We have the likes of Wamushomba in Kiambu County. But again, she's not following what her party is saying, because she feels the party is not representing what Wanjiko is talking about. And it's okay. At the end of the day, we need to understand that as long as every person who goes to the ballot has their political interest, personal interest first, and they also have the interest of Kenyans, things will never be as lenient as we want them to be, because we have made politics in Kenya about money. So if I'm going to spend 100 million to vie for a women rep seat in Nyandarua County, you don't want to tell me when I go to parliament and the president tells me, hey, there is 10 million for you to pass this bill. I'm gonna say no.
Is it 10 million or
or how much?
Exogenous pressure from the top?
Sometimes money comes, you hear
on Monday
money.
There is a parliamentary group meeting, we understand, of the UDA party at State House. Normally, is it all about, we can't, of course, make accusations and allegations that we cannot substantiate or independently verify. But certainly there has been a culture of running the political parliamentary affairs from State House in this country. Not this government, but also the previous government, although President Mwai Kibaki to some extent was had a laid-back approach and gave those he tasked with responsibilities to deliver. There
is that high power that we all call deep state, but again, that deep state has to massage that message to their members with some liquidity. You're not going to tell somebody, just pass this, and when they tell you, I have some Harambe going back in Nyandarua County, you're not going to give them 5 million to take to that church for them to be seen as a populist. So at the end of the day, it goes down to money, it goes down to those in power, it goes down to the whole state capture that we all talk about and we all feel like our culture does not
what Buka calls neocolonialism. I just hang on Wanjuhi because I need to take the account of Wycliffe here and also Lucy, because they're very key, and since they're members of the ruling party. Wycliffe, given that you have grievances, and which Lucy said there are established mechanisms to address your grievances so that a conclusive outcome is made by the party, and you're talking about the registration of members, how you had invested your entire hope in the ruling party, but again, it appears that the party is not meeting your expectation and that of many young Kenyans, especially in Nairobi, who we talked to during the party grassroots election in Nairobi County. What then is the way out for you? Remain in the party or forge another way forward and find like-minded young Kenyans who you can, drive the agenda of unity around the young people in this country?
You know, first of all, Ayuba, what I can urge my fellow youths is that even the UDA party, I'm requesting first to follow the constitution of which they amended and of which they know about it. Number two, you asked me how I lured people to join UDA.
Yeah.
You know, my good objectives.
Buka had mentioned that.
my good objectives to the society, like now my charity to the vulnerable people.
Yes.
And my good relationship to the people of Embakasi South. And the tribal balance we did when we were registering these people made people to join the camp. But now, the problems from the party itself. Because people on the ground are willing to join the party. Because despite all these wrangles and whatever is happening, as much as this is happening, I'm requesting the leaders to avoid the side shows and bring people together. Because we have common agenda to deliver, service deliver to the people and give back to the society at the same time. So for me, I'm not going to leave because I've not been heard from the party itself. So I want first to be heard from the party so that I get the clear directions on the next move.
Okay, hang on just yes, Lucy, please.
Like I said before, the ruling party had the Electoral Dispute and Resolution Committee, which was handling all the problems that were related to the grassroots elections. If you followed the process correctly, everyone was heard. Again, areas where some of you have heard, they are saying that there were no elections. Those were areas where candidates were unopposed. So automatically, they won.
Ayub, I went to the tribunal and I was even given the court order to stop the elections. But when I went to serve the court order to the UDA party, they were running up and down as if I brought the bomb in the party. So I failed to understand who is going to guide us on the way forward.
And who are the UDA party? Because I understand there is a board responsible for that. The same case, there is national election.
No, you have the legal department.
Yes. Everyone was handling his or her own business there. If you came there and found
this is not an order, Baraza.
the secretariat, and you start telling them, I've lost this, I've lost this. There was the process.
No, I followed the due process.
Followed.
I exhausted everything from as per the constitution of the party.
Last but not the least, you said you mobilized over 10,000 people to join the party. I would like to tell the Kenyans who are watching, the elections of the UDA party were supposed to be done by the registered member of the party.
Exactly.
It was not the IEBC register that was being used. It was the party's register.
Yes.
And there's a difference of having people wearing yellow and saying they are party members, and when you come to the system, they are not registered. Automatically, they cannot vote for you, and that's how some of the people lost.
You know, at Hustler Center, we were given...
This is not a Yudaba.
Yeah.
All right.
So that we address all the pending business. Just hang on.
The communication can actually teach him the party procedure.
Okay. You know, we used to attend the UDA Hustler Center on how election is going to be done. We were given guidelines of which we followed clearly. And we attended all the exercises.
Okay, has there been now response from the dispute and tribunal?
Yes, I went there.
Yeah.
They turned down.
How?
And then I went to the political party tribunal. I was given a court order to stop the elections.
Okay.
Of which they proceed and did
but still we have some parts of Nairobi where the elections have been postponed.
No, this is Nairobi and Embakasi South. I'm talking Nairobi and Embakasi South. I'm not talking about the other parts of Nairobi.
And now let's flip the conversation around this course, because also your perspectives are important as to what's ongoing. And the papers had this story, which has largely been the major events of the past 14 days. The front page of the Daily Nation: why Kenyans reject the tax bill. 8 out of 10 Kenyans are opposed to the introduction of new taxes on bread, cooking oil, financial services, motor vehicles, and new levy on environmentally unfriendly products, according to a new opinion poll. 77% of Kenyans said the Finance Bill 2024 will not have a positive impact on the economy. 87% of Kenyans are opposed to the introduction of 16% on value-added tax on bread, while 86% are opposed to the introduction of VAT on financial transactions, such as M-Pesa. The government has been warned of massive job losses and major economic crisis should the contentious proposals contained in the bill be passed into law. More than 500 groups appearing before the National Assembly's Finance and National Planning, including the Church, have asked Parliament to do away with the punitive taxes, even as businesses threaten to exit the Kenyan market, and a new opinion poll showed high public disapproval of the measures. This is major, is it, Eric?
Yeah, this is very major. And thank you so much. This issue of the finance bill, first, I want to say that I think everything to some extent is being exaggerated. I want to point out a few critical issues that the financial policies that we have in this country. First and foremost, the first question that we need to ask ourselves, are these policies that we came up with or we borrowed? One, I want to narrow it down to IMF and even World Bank. These people have come up with financial policies that are supposed to help them. You know, on the other side, we are assets of World Bank and IMF. Reason being, because every time we are loaned or given money, then they count on us. So we work extra harder to make sure that we are repaying our loans, and that is what brings the issue of this budget looking like this. We are living beyond our means. We are willing but unable. Reason being, we are focusing on issues that are not only we are focusing on issues that are going to be very critical in the near future. Look at our production rates today in this country. The country should focus on production so that we are able to export more and import less. But the opposite is happening. In 2000, going back, Webuye and Pepper, because I come from that region, Webuye and Pepper, we used to, export pepper to, Uganda, Rwanda, and many other countries in the Europe. But the opposite is happening today. Just to come on that. In Finland, it takes 100 years, 80 to 120 for a pine tree to mature. But it takes only 5 to 10 years for a pine tree to mature in Kenya. But ironically, we import pepper from Finland. Then what does it mean? That production is not taken seriously. On the issues of our expenditure, there is no accountability. Every financial year, there is an audit query that there is no prudent utilization of the public funds. Look at what is happening today. It is very clear and categorical that our taxes, over 50% of what is collected is used to pay civil servants. Then that means our growth graph is not looking good. We are supposed to have taxes collected. Yes, there is no problem. Every Kenyan wants to pay tax. But is there prudent use of the taxes that is collected? And that is the problem that all of us are seeing. Number two, where is this money going? Where is this money going? Because there is borrowing money, then there is high taxation. But on issues development and infrastructure, as far as this country is concerned, everything is at standstill. So we are saying, let us pay tax, but let us see where this money is going.
Yes, Wanjohi.
I think for me, and I agree with him on we being beneficiary, of important, these taxes are meant to benefit the lenders, the people who are giving us the money. Yeah. But it boils down to our political decision. Every 5 years we have an election. Who are the leaders we send to parliament? And Jerry talked about people being bribed or being called to State House and being ordered to follow a certain pattern, to adhere to certain voting. Like now, they will probably be told to pass a finance bill as it is. But there's a solution to this that has been provided by the Constitution. This allows for multi-party democracy. This allows for independent candidates to be voted in. But when you vie as an independent candidate in this country, the people at the bottom say, we do not want madoa-doa. We don't want to give the president people who are going to disturb him. But people who are going to disturb him are people who are going to stand for Wanjiku. We need opposition, very, very strong opposition in parliament. And that is why our constitution allowed even for independent candidates to run for political seats and be elected to parliament and the county assemblies. Secondly, I think it's extremely important for members of parliament to listen to the cries of the people. We don't need this finance bill. It needs to fail in parliament. Let us implement the one that was passed last year and give Kenyans a break from new taxation. The honest truth is that the cost of living is unbearable as it is. Imagine more tax burden to the people. Why are we borrowing? I have seen we are receiving money to extend the expressway all the way to Mombasa. Is that a priority? Do we genuinely, at this particular point, need to extend the expressway to Mombasa? We have a railway line that can bring cargo from Mombasa to Mlolongo. So the honest truth is that the kind of borrowing we are doing right now, we need to pause and ask ourselves, is it necessary? Do we need it? We are building an airport in Kericho, and I'm asking myself, what for? Are we meeting the maximum? Are we utilizing Eldoret and Kisumu to the maximum now to a point where we can say we are at a point where we need to build a new airport in Kericho? This is burden we are putting on ourselves, and we will honestly not be able to pay.
Okay. Okay, I'll come to you. Yes, Wycliffe, I'll come to you. Buka, we were here last year.
Yes.
And Finance Bill 2023. And thousands of proposals were made to the committee. And more than 90% said no, or we need to amend this and that. But it never came to pass, except for the lessening of the housing levy from 3% to 1.5%. The point is then, is the public participation as enshrined in the Constitution, which has a weight as per how it's constitutionally guaranteed, a mere cosmetic exercise in the context of now practicalizing it and benefiting the Kenyan people?
First of all, sometimes I sympathize with President Ruto, because I don't think that he didn't know that 90% of the 90% of the Kenyan people actually rejected the finance bill. And I also think that Ruto I don't think that he doesn't know that this next finance bill is the most unpopular. But this is a man held captive by foreign interest. The IMF and World Bank continue to hijack our processes from the electoral time. Yeah, now, when you accept to take money from foreign funders and drive your political agenda. Once you take political power, you remain a captive, because I don't think Ruto is that stupid to just continue imposing taxes and taking loans. The policy makers within the central bank that controls our bottom line and his economic advisors are all people from World Bank and IMF. It basically means that Ruto himself do not have the liberty to make a decision of what he wants or what he doesn't want. Because if he doesn't do this, then chances of him getting the support from the same people who propped him to get that political position, it's a problem. So what the Communist Party is...
the power was given by the Kenyan people, is it?
I'm saying our democracy... Ayub, our democracy...
Okay, Buka, we need to be very specific. And we headed to the polls in August 2022.
Let me ask you, UDA, the machinery that drove Ruto to the helm, the position of the presidency, is a new party. The political parties actually outlines how our political party should raise its resources. When these people are running political campaigns, can't we ask ourselves, why is it that both opposition leaders and the leaders in government, before just elections, they have some tour of Europe, they have some tour of Israel, they go to Washington? What are they going to do there? They're not going to take tea or pray. What these people are going to do is to lobby for big finances to enable them to prop them to power. Once they get into power, they cannot make decisions because there's some decisions that are outrightly popular. What do you make of, for example...
who makes the ultimate decision?
When the president comes...
But Buka, let's be objective and substantive here.
Yes.
The then Deputy President William Ruto went to Chatham House in London, went to Washington, so was the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who were the leading presidential candidates before the elections. But the ultimate decider of who occupies State House is the Kenyan people, is it?
The ultimate decider is not the Kenyan people. When you have a flawed democratic process...
Then what happened in August the 9th?
The people that drives the political processes in our country are either billionaire class or the people who have enough resources to drive this change.
So what happened on August 9th? Can you describe what happened?
What happened is that some rich people formed a club in the name of political parties, and they formed criminal alliances with foreign backers, brought in billions of shillings, and drove the entire country mad.
You're not answering my question. What happened on August the 9th?
The electoral process.
Where were you on August the 9th?
I went to cast my vote. But I casted my vote based on my beliefs and the political program that was placed on me. But the people who pretended to push these political processes, I can tell you, even after the August 9th, when the presidential election was announced, who visited us? Was it not the people who were sent by Joe Biden's administration to try and bring temporary peace?
I'm still not getting...
No. What we are trying... Let me drive my point.
I'll ask you the question because we need to also take the account of others at the best interest of time. You said you exercised your democratic right. Yeah. So did many millions of Kenyans who eventually handed the mandate over to the current president and the Kenya Kwanza administration. I mean, it was a rigorous democratic process, is it? And that Article 1 was enforced, that all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and not the shadowy forces you have characterized, either in London, in Washington, or in Tel Aviv.
Ayub, our electoral processes are rigged from the day even we start the campaigns, because they are rigged in the sense that not people are provided with equal opportunities to contest based on a political program. In fact, the politics of this country, to say the least, is money and personality cult. That the people who today are talking about a political program that they drove do not care about it. For example, the United Democratic Alliance sold a political hope to the poor people. They sold a political hope to the hustler people. Why is it that in practice now, their actions, their policies are an attack on the poor people? Okay. How can you explain that?
We cannot blame...
Yes, Wycliffe, and then I'll
Ayub, what I know is that the president is working so hard for the betterment of each and everybody. But in whatever you do, the starting point is the problem. Like, for example, when the expressway was constructed, people are still complaining. There's a lot of traffic, blah, 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 but now everything is okay. But the only challenge is that whatever is happening now is pressing down Wanjiku at the moment. And I'm very sure within a certain period of time, things are going to be okay. But I'm also urging the government in whatever...
How are they going to be okay? How?
No,
Please break it down. Don't give us euphoria and utopia here.
Let's give him.
But we cannot allow him to come and sell lies. He has to tell us practically how is it going to
hold him back.
For example,
Just tell us what the foundation.
No, what I'm
have been
trying to
placed.
say is that whatever the government is doing, they should, at least, for example, the demolition which is ongoing, they should give some people an option. Like in the Bible, when Jesus exhausted demons from a human being, he gave them an option to throw them to the pigs. So they were given an option to survive.
So is demolition exhausting demons?
So what I'm trying to say is that let us give our president humble time
and
to at least
election.
square out things and give it some period of time.
How long?
We are going to bear the
how many financial years so far?
Okay, now the second one. I'll come to you, Njeri. Yes, Lucy.
First of all, I would like to tell everyone that the leaders we have, they are a reflection of who we are as a people, as a country. Whether they are good or bad, we elected them. Secondly...
No, we didn't elect them.
All right. The Communist Party leader, you're saying our government and our democracy is based on, I don't know, the club of billionaires and all that. And at the same time, you are advocating for your party to rule this country maybe in the future. How are you going to do that? Are you a billionaire? I don't know. My point
I could answer that.
You will answer
My
that.
point is this. The nation's strength lies in what it can do on its own, not what it can do by borrowing other country. The finance bill, myself, I believe it's a pill that is meant to cure the nation by following the better, which is the implementing the better plan, bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which was formed by this government, which has the mandate, or it's to eradicate poverty, create jobs. And this is where we are going as a nation.
Okay, yes, I'll ask her the question.
It's a bitter pill that's meant to cure the nation.
Okay.
Right now, our president is in Korea. The same case with our Jirani. Samia Suluhu is there. But Samia is there to borrow. Actually, she's borrowing. Our president, through the Exim Bank of Korea, they are going to fund the dueling of Machakos Emali Junction Road, 78 kilometers. Those are the development that...
And that is not borrowing.
Okay. Okay.
Is that not structured? That's a borrowing exercise.
It is development.
Development for borrowing.
Now, is that the priority?
Again,
where is the money coming from?
Is that the priority?
Let's come.
Borrowing
for
and
now,
All right.
for future, we cannot be dealing with the Mukate now. We must look at the future. Every generation has a responsibility.
And ours is to borrow.
Oh,
No,
okay.
to cure the nation.
How?
So,
By borrowing.
let her finish
My
her point.
last point is
You'll
this.
have the time to respond to.
I know she dearly wants
No.
to defend her employer, but
Let's have some semblance of order, and she makes her submission. Yes, please.
I'm actually even confused. The last point, what I'm trying to say is this. The president, when he's there, the projects that we are witnessing as a country, zitasaidia baadaye, just like the superhighways we have. The issue of demolition, even the superhighway, when it was being built, demolitions happen. Changes.
How did they happen? That is the question. How? My problem with demolitions is how. You can't just wake up and tell people to vacate from Korogosho. Yet in Lavington and Kileleshwa, we still have roads.
But
we still have rivers, and you're not demolishing there.
Do we?
You cannot wake up and tell us that you want to demolish in Korogosho and you are demolishing to the same people you talked about, mtu wa chini, mtu wa boda boda. How are you going to tell somebody who has lived on that land for 30 years to wake up one morning and go? You can demolish, yes, but wait for them to even pick their clothes, pick their utensils and everything else. You cannot remove somebody from a hustler, take them to a chokora, now where they have to go to the demolished buildings and start chokoraing around and taking their blankets home. We don't have problems with demolitions. We have problems with how they are done. We have problems with the time duration. We have problems with the process. I have people you hear say, I have a title deed given by the government of Kenya. Then my land is demolished. So who is the problem? The person who gave the title, knowingly that was land that was not supposed to be sold. So the government cannot just wake up and demolish and send people away from Korogocho and the hustler side of Kenyans. Yet, Lavington and Kileleshwa, we also have people on those rivers. But for them, because it's the upper side of town where some of those members of parliament and some of those people in government have properties there, they are giving themselves time. And again, on that issue of the demolitions, it's very unfortunate that most of these demolitions have been done in areas where Mount Kenya people have settled. And it's even unfortunate that the Deputy President of Kenya, who is asking for the unity of the mountain, the Demolitions Commission of Rivers is under him. But he still wants to come outside there and tell Kenyans that, you know what?
But we cannot tribalize. We cannot tribalize demolition. No. We cannot tribalize demolition. That's what we refuse.
But most people there are the Mount Kenya people.
In fact, the false policy.
No,
that's a
Buka,
false
you had
policy.
your chance.
Okay, Buka, you come to you, so you come to you.
So I think I want to
strange.
first respond to Buka, because we have to be very careful as Kenyans not to put our mistakes on other people. Every 5 years, we have an election held in this country. We have the chance as young people, like last election, they were targeting 6 million new voters. How many registered, how many showed up to vote? So the responsibility of electing and voting in new leadership is on us, we as Kenyans, and given to us by the Constitution. The issue of the cost of living, we cannot ignore it. And the president, was elected on a hustler and bottom-up economic model. But the honest truth, it's 2 years, and we are yet to see the impact of this better economic model. I am sorry, but we are yet to see, and you tell us to give him time. I don't know how much more time you're supposed to give him. Borrowing is good, but what are we borrowing for? Are these projects the priority? And when this money comes, are we going to be transparent and say this is what the money was used for? Or are we going to exaggerate the projects and that money goes to corruption? The taxes we are paying, you just read news before we started this conversation, and we were talking about a shortage of vaccines in this country, where we are being taxed the way we are being taxed. And that goes down to the working class you had talked about earlier. These are the doctors. They were on strike for over 50 days. But every time I would watch the TV and watch conversations with members of parliament, I kept asking myself, why are doctors not members of parliament? Why are they not in parliament? Why have doctors not come together and say, we are going to sponsor at least 3 people in parliament? Where is the working class not coming together and saying we need to sponsor our own to parliament? Until then, we will not have a change.
Okay.
And let me finish.
Yes.
You had talked about the one vote, one woman, one man, one husband vote.
Yeah.
1 shilling. That's a conversation really of equitable distribution of resources. This is a cry. It doesn't have to be implemented as one person, one husband, one wife, one shilling, but we need to think about it critically. Roiro, for instance, has 800,000 people. When you go to Lamu County, for instance, the entire county, this is a sub-county, the entire county has 100 and something thousand people. And so
People or voters?
Voters.
Okay.
But even when you look at the population, it's still very, very small. And that tells you, when you go to the CDF allocations, they get equal amounts. Roiro will get the same. Lamu East constituency, for instance, will get the same allocation. So this is a cry. And when it comes to bursaries, for instance, which is the biggest trigger for this conversation, is that the people in Roiro are not getting as much bursaries. They'll probably get 1,000 shillings. Well, that one in Lamu will get 20,000.
But Wanjuhi, isn't the argument then when you look at the other side of the coin here? Because the people in Lamu East will also argue that because of systematic state exclusion and marginalization of resources not going in there, lack of social amenities, their population growth was down. And therefore,
I hear you.
Is it not now catching up what in many aspects many have regarded as positive discrimination of the majority?
And I hear you.
How then would you respond?
No. For me, I would say, for instance, bursaries need to move from politicians.
Okay.
We need to create a fund. When you think about capitation of the school allocations, it's done per child. And this is not influenced by politicians. This is government money. This is how it's allocated. Why do we have the president giving bursaries? Why do we have governors and by extension MCAs? Why do we have MPs? Why do we have women reps giving bursaries? This has become a tool for campaigns. So let's take out the bursaries from politicians and have an independent fund. Then let them focus on other things.
Okay, I'll come to you too. Yes, Buka, I'll come to you too.
Yeah. What I wanted to say, and this is in response to my sister here, because I have had first-hand experience of where demolitions are going on from Korogosho to Madari. We cannot afford to tribalize the debate that the government is targeting a particular community in terms of demolition. Yeah. The demolition has affected from Luos to Kikuyus to Kalenjins. The demolition has affected one tribe, the poor people, and not other. So it will be important that those people who are trying to whip, you know, the sympathy of the Mount Kenya people must never tribalize demolition in Nairobi, because demolition processes is a wrong government policy that has been acted to attack the poor people, not based on their tribes, but based on their social status in Kenya today. So we hope that the President Ruto's government will, reconsider that policy and make sure that the poor people in this country, for one moment, the way he promised, is given dignity. The second thing I wanted to respond to my sister there, your government, UDA, is not implementing the bottom-up economic model. In fact, in practice, they are implementing what is called the trickling down effect, the economy of the billionaires. And I could tell you this in certain terms. One of it is that the government is talking about widening the tax gap. The government is talking about everybody has a responsibility to pay tax. But what the government is unaware of is the government do not want to attack tax where the money is. Not the majority of the people in this country have money. So if you say that all of us have to pay taxes, it's okay, we can pay excess duty through buying salt or anything else. But where is the money in this country? The few people who have money, actually, in the correct data, only 10% of this population controls the total number of GDP. If, in fact, land, only 56% of the Kenyan land is owned by, again, another minority of 10%. So what we want the Kenya Kwanza government to do is what they said, to run a bottom-up approach where we want to see big cooperative movements. We haven't seen that. The second thing that we want to see, industrialization, not politicization of sugar industries to get the Luya votes. That is what we want to see. The third thing we want to see, we don't want to see billionaires around President Ruto scheming to buy state-owned enterprises for close to nothing through corrupt deals. Those are the things we want to see. What we want to see is that when we talk about the fuel levy, when we talk about things that affects Mama Mboga, when we talk about education, even though she has progressed the idea of education to be taken away from the politician, but we cannot be devolved that education is a national project. Okay. We do not want only rich people in this country to actually access university education. Okay. So what is your bottom up? Okay. That is the question.
Yes, Eric.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'll come to you, Lucy.
I think we need to get things correct. I'm trying to look at countries, let us look at countries like Vietnam and Korea, where our president
South or North?
Yeah,
South. North.
Yeah, South.
Okay.
because of the communist affiliation.
North is the best place to be. I thought you was
let us look at Korea and Vietnam. It is good to work on comparison so that we know even where we are headed to sometimes. In 1960s to 1970, Korea and Vietnam and Kenya, we were on the same economic platform as far as GDP is concerned. Today, they have doubled our efforts, and now we are going back. Our president even is going back to the same countries to ask how they are doing things. One, I want to say that for us to grow as a country, our systems must be clean. And two, the issue of tax is there, yes, but we want to, let us stabilize our country first. You don't tax to stabilize. On an economic point of view, you don't tax to stabilize. You stabilize a country first so that you create a good business environment for people to work and be productive, so that now you can come back and tax them, say, now look, guys, I've brought policies we have implemented, and now you've realized that everything now is working well. Now, this is the amount of tax that we want to introduce, but you don't go ahead and taxing people. And another thing I want to point out is that taxes, high taxation does not grow economies. And we are taxing ourselves because we want to please the foreigners and people in Europe and other places of the world, that we also have got the ability to raise this amount of money. But we are raising it at the expense of the Kenyans, and for this case, poor Kenyans. Because, you know, it is very unbearable for us to come on board, sit down, have ourselves pay taxes just to show other people that we have also the same masculinity in terms of tax collection. So let us stabilize, let the president focus on stabilizing the economy so that then he can tax.
Yes, Lucy.
Thank you very much. I would like to tell everyone, this finance bill is still a proposal. And the Kenya Kwanza government is a listening government. Investors and foreign investors, the public, the private sector, they are all invited to submit their proposals. Like, for example, all of you here, what alternatives do you have? You are not submitting anything.
No, we've said do away with the finance bill 2024.
The last financial year, before she proceeds, please.
Let her finish. Eric, just hang on.
You're also saying that our president is going to Korea, and Korea, some years back, we used to be the same level. This is a new government. 2 years in office.
But he was a deputy president.
Did they do anything?
Actually,
our president,
he was
the deputy.
I'm also saying our president is in Korea. We are not even talking about the vaccination project that he's initiating with the Korean government.
Yeah.
We are not also talking about Samia Suluhu, who is also there but borrowing.
But we are seeing her development.
Yes, you see, when they have the problem, they all run here because in Kenya we are the capital of Africa.
Yeah.
Now, like I'm saying, our government, you are not talking about the universal health care workers that the government are providing. You are not talking about the GSS teachers that are going to be employed on permanent and pension.
GSS teachers are on the streets.
No, there was a form of agreement here.
There was a form of, what we are saying is, what we are saying before.
Let her finish, please.
As Kenya, as a country, we are neither looking east or west. We are looking forward. We are not the, what do you call them? We are not the Vibaraka from the Western countries. We are neither looking east or west, we are moving forward.
Interestingly, he said,
what was your president doing in Washington? What was your president? A young boy.
And then goes to Korea.
I think the responsibility of the president.
Did you see his speech?
It is the responsibility, yes, of the president to ensure that we create network even as a country.
Correct.
I believe as an individual, you want to expand and grow your network because practically your network to some extent is your net worth.
Correct.
You get it. Now, but now what we are trying to narrow down is, you've said that it is just a proposal. Yes, well and good. Let us now go back to the last financial year.
Yes.
How many Kenyans, by percentage, rejected it? 90%.
90%.
90%.
And you still passed it?
Yes, 90% of Kenyans last financial year rejected the finance bill.
Initially.
But it was passed. Then, now prove to me how, again, a miracle is going to happen that after 90% of Kenyans this time have rejected that it is not going to pass.
Yes, Jerry. Yes.
I was of the opinion of, in my newspaper, I can see that we are having a 12.3 billion expenditure on domestic travel.
Yeah.
We have an expenditure of MDA's 18 billion, and our debt, public debt, is at 10 trillion. I don't have a problem with the president going to do networks and all those kind of things that he goes to do, but not at the expense of the Kenyan taxpayer. Where we saw him,
and how will he?
Let me finish. Where we saw him acting like an artist, he wants to go with a flashy private jet. He wants to be given the most flashy lifestyle with his whole delegation, not at the expense of the Kenyan taxpayer. We want to be very clear to the Kenya Kwanza government. Kenyans are not ready for Finance Bill 2024. 2023 is not even 10%, or we cannot even say that it has really done a lot. I wish Kenya Kwanza was telling us the Finance Bill 2023 has yielded 50%. Then we can move on and discuss about 2024. But you cannot tell us of another bill, yet we are not even, hatujamaliza kusikia uchungu wa the 2023 one. You want again to whip us 2024 finance bill. And again, do you people do public participation? Because I don't expect you people to just wake up and say, our members of parliament have decided. Go to the grassroots, enda mashinani, ask how many Kenyans are willing to pay for the vehicle tax. Ask how many Kenyans are willing to do all those kind of taxes that you are bringing us upon. And they will tell you, we don't even have the money you want us to tax. We don't even have that money at our disposal. Kenyans can't even afford 3 basic meals, and you want to tax them. another finance bill 2024. Let us be honest as a nation. We cannot be taxed for the president to do private jets, for him to wear designer watches, for him to wear designer belts and every other thing. We cannot be taxed for the state departments and ministries to spend 18 billion on travel. Wanaenda kufanya nini? We have teleconferences, let them use that. We have technology that has gone to way beyond back in Mike Kibaki's time. We don't have to see videos on TikTok of the president sitting down anafanyiwa choir na some Koreans singing na Kiswahili Mungu ni wetu song. We don't have to see that at our expense.
Ayub,
yes, quickly.
You know,
Yes,
whatever is happening
I'll come to this,
is within the rights of the president. But I can bear with my friends that what they want is that the president should adjust on the issues attaching mwananchi wa kawaida. And that is what I know they want. And for the issues of borrowing, it's about accountability. Borrowing is not a problem. The only challenge is how do you account for the borrowing.
Okay, yes, Lucy, you had a point. I'll come to you, book and or it's substantively dealt with by, yes.
You see, we must all agree the government can only fund the infrastructure and all that by collecting the taxes.
Exactly.
Of course. In fact, by increasing the tax base. But everyone here is saying the president is overspending, the president is it. If you go to our media, because the media does not forget, even the previous government, Kenyans complained about the former president. He also had...
We ought to
because
be better.
Kenyans just complain and we move.
Ayub,
Yes,
I think I have two concerns.
Let her finish her point. I'll come to you and Buka.
Okay.
So right now, when we are talking about the expenditure of the government, and this thing has not even been taken to the parliament, it's still a proposal. Neither of you is proposing anything.
No, we are
proposing nothing because we don't have...
No. For me, I say... No. We said do away with the 2024 bill. Let us focus on 2023. Give us that break for a year. Let us implement 2023.
Exactly.
And then But I have 2 points, Ayub. We are okay with taxation. Tax us as much as you want. But let us go to hospitals and find vaccines. Let us go there and find functioning facilities. Let's not find potholes on our roads. Let's have quality education. Let's have feeding programs in our schools. Tax us as much as you want.
And that's where the leaders are to be held accountable. The leaders you elected.
Thank you very much.
The president.
Thank you very much.
Start with the accountability of the president.
You cannot run before you walk. You start with your MCA before you reach the president.
Either way,
and it's okay. All of them, we have to hold them accountable. The other point, my concern is, and I don't know whether this is verified or not, but I saw there is a member of parliament who said companies can go to Uganda and then...
Well, he said he was misinterpreting.
but
he said it was misinterpreted.
But he said that that's an option. But we should be concerned that besides exporting labor, which is good if we have a mechanism of how these skills will come back and benefit our country, how do we ensure that our businesses remain afloat? How many businesses have closed and how many are threatening to close? So I think that's a big concern. And even as we are thinking about the Finance Bill 2024, and as members of Parliament go to debate this particular bill, it is important for them to ask themselves, even with the Finance Bill of 2023, have we met our tax targets? I don't think so. We haven't met them. And is 2024 going to make it any better, or is it going to worsen the situation? Is it going to improve the livelihoods of Kenyans? And that's the most important thing. So we can tax as much as we want, but if the quality of life is worse than it was last year, if it's worse than it is this year, then we must not proceed on it.
Yes, the final word, Buka. We need to also sample the feedback, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, I sympathize with Lucy because she wants to really defend her employer. We understand that. But she continuously asks us, what is our proposal to advance the interest of the Kenyan people? Actually, the Kenyan people expressed themselves explicitly that they wanted jobs. We want the Kenya Kwanza administration to roll out a deliberate project to put money into agriculture, food processing, and industrialization. This was something that was not implemented in the first finance bill and the second finance bill. The second thing is on the taxation regime. We want your boss, your Kenya Kwanza, to tax where the money is. We want to see people who make billions of money through bonds, through investments in terms of declaration of corporate income, to pay more taxes than Ayub who works. You remember what I'm telling you. These are our concrete proposals. Your boss knows these things. He was on the TV during campaign lying about the Kenyans that is going to do it. He has not done anything about it. The last thing that I wanted to comment, of course, because the debate is about the youth question and the unity. The thing is that when we are looking at the youth is not monolithic whole. We must not say that we are advancing the interest of the youth, because we know that there are also youth that have been appropriated by the system. We have the corrupt youth, we have the billionaire youths. For us, we are interested in the youth that suffers under the hegemony of William Ruto's government. The youths that are now on the streets jobless, that are annoyed. In fact, yesterday they were in the street saying, and tomorrow they will be on the street again, saying that the president lied to them. We don't want the president to cover another lie with another lie. This story of Korea, we know. We know how Korean developed, for example. Who is financing almost 54% of the Korean budget, South Korean budget? We know Korea and Philippines. They are all the outpost of the United States imperialism. They are financed by the United States imperialism. So the Kenya Kwanza government, if they will want to have an autonomy of our accounting, the express demand we say, we do not want IMF and World Bank controlling our policies at central bank. We do not want our economies to be developed by the foreign interest of the West.
Yes, Lucy, final word.
The goal is to have creation for our youth, to have a stabilized economy that works for everyone. So the best thing we could do as youth is to propose what the government can do for everyone, so that we can have an economy that is working for everyone instead of complaining.
Are you listening?
But you've
Did you listen to my proposal?
No, those are not proposals, they are complaints.
No,
and they will not help anyone.
Thank you. Your time is all appreciated. Let's now take a look at what Kenyans are saying as well. And we thank you for keeping your comments coming here, because we can't accommodate all of us here, but we sample the feedback here. This one says, the first one from Bobo Tieno, we know youth and navigating political storms they can't stand on their own depends on political bigwigs and their party ideologies. If I am wrong, I dare the panelists to cover together and form their own political party to push their agenda independently. Buka says we are not one monolithic bloc. Sir Nixon Dugure says, I appeal to the youth to start talking to each other across the divisions of race and political organizations with an ethical, sane and sober approach. This might eventually lead to the very upright politics in future. Next is Godi Barasawere. He says, our youth find it difficult to navigate or weather political storms because they are easily lured into submission by political bigwigs. Young people constitute a very critical and influential force that can turn things around for the better. SRA says the SR unit for Kenyan politics is money and tribes. No matter how good your ideology is, without a lot of money, you stand no chance of becoming a leader. Most youth are easily lured by the wealthy politicians, only to be used and discarded after the elections. Okelo Mwalimu says major impediments to youth progress are unemployment, drug substance abuse, and untamed gambling. As long as he says this, as long as this remains unresolved, we'll still have the daytime robbery and other social crimes. The government must provide equal opportunities to all youths and avoid divide and rule. Black Like Mao says, why isn't the working class in parliament? It doesn't have the money. Kenya is captured by the minority rich. Franklin Orinda says the Kenya Kwanza government under the stewardship of the president are almost hitting 2 years in office. They have had enough time, and unfortunately we can't see any improvement apart from the extravagant expenditure by the executive. Finance bill is and with the blessings of the president. Bobo Tieno Wino says again, the day youths will deassociate from big political bigwigs and their political parties to form a strong, formidable political party of their own is when they will start navigating the political storm. For now, they are, in quotes, Bendera fuata upepo. That is all appreciated, and your time is cherished here. Wanyama Eric Chemwami is a Youth Development Officer, the County of Uasin Gishu. Good morning and thank you. Njeri Kahiga on my far right is a National Youth Leader from Nyandarua County. Buka Omole is the National Vice Chairperson of the Communist Party of Kenya. Wycliffe Merina is a Youth Leader, Nairobi County, to be specific, in Embakasi South. Lucy Kaleke is the Communications Officer at the United Democratic Alliance Party. And Wanjuhi Njoroge is the Youth Policy Analyst from the County of Nyeri. Ladies and gentlemen, lovely to have you, and what a time to have this discussion. And Fridays are always beautiful, hearing from Kenya's majority, and we look forward to more further engagements that are productive and to the growth of our country. Thank you for your time. Thanks to you too for waking up with us here on the broadcast and keeping your comments coming on the hashtag Daybreak, the SMS code 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. By the grace of God, we'll see you on Monday morning here at the same time. Till then, good morning.